Capitol Hoops, here with our documentary series Beyond the X's and O's. Today we are at Rock Creek Christian with head coach Chris Cole. Coach, thanks for having us in. We look forward to catching up with you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So we're at Rock Creek, formerly Clinton Christian.
Yep.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but first I just want to ask you kind of a little background on yourself. I know you weren't born in the area here, but you came here and kind of claimed the DMV as your home.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I actually was born in New York, and I was an Army brat, so my parents ended up being stationed in Germany. So I spent about up until I was 12 in Germany, but I used to come over to this area every summer since I was about 10 or 11 and go to camps and stuff like that. I went to 5 Star and then just several camps around the area. So then when I came over here, my father passed away one of the summers, and I ended up just staying here. Even before he passed, it was looking like we were trying to transfer over here. I was looking at Montrose and DeMath and all that as an 8th grader. So when he passed, I ended up at Montrose and ended up in the area.
So walk me through your basketball playing career. You come over from overseas,
Right.
and you enroll at Montrose Christian.
Yeah, I was pretty good as an 8th grader. I know a lot of coaches in the area still know far from back then, but I was pretty good. So I was choosing between LaSalle in New York, DeMath, O'Connell at the time. I think that was Joe's first year there, and Montrose. My father built a relationship with Kevin Sutton at the time, so that's who I actually went there to play for. But after the summer, Kevin got the job over, I think it was IMG or no, Montverde. Montverde, yeah. And Stu took back over, got back into coaching, so I ended up over there as a 7th and 8th grader or 8th grader, and that's kind of how I got started over here. I ended up, after my father passed, I ended up gaining a whole bunch of weight, didn't really play over there at Montrose because I was going through some emotional stuff as a kid. Then I got myself back together, ended up transferring at National Christian with Trevor Brown, who's like my godfather. My father had a good relationship with, and I ended up playing some pretty good years there. I had a pretty good little high school career. One of our teams was pretty good. Kevin Durant is the known, but we had Deron Washington, Chris Matthew, who's training people for shooting now, Brian Inge, who's doing stuff with McNamara and the Blue Devils. We had a bunch of talent, and we were pretty good. One of the best teams probably in this area for a long time. And then I went on to college. I had offers from, some big, lower Big East schools, but I ended up going to Hartford because my father had a relationship with the coach, Chris Pompey. So I still wasn't kind of over my father's death. I kind of wanted to be around people that I was familiar with, and I ended up going there for 1 year, transferring to New Mexico State to play for Reggie Theus. Ended up not playing for Reggie again, kind of like the Kevin Sutton situation, because Reggie got the job at Sacramento. And I ended up playing for Marvin Mincy, who's now at UNLV. I played 1 year there, and then I got sick. I got really sick. Same thing, my father passed from, cancerous stuff. So I had to stop playing. Ended up going through a lot of stuff, getting myself together, and then here I am.
So you finish at New Mexico State.
New Mexico State after only 1 year.
And what's your first job after the New Mexico State?
Actually, my when I was at New Mexico State and I ended up getting sick, I didn't have my degree at the time. I think that was only my 3rd year of college, so I really wanted to finish my degree. It was pretty hard because I was in the house throwing up. I was going through a lot of stuff. I was pretty sick and didn't have really any money to really take care of myself to that level. So actually, my first job was a janitor at Rio Grande Medical Center. I was a janitor at the medical center. I ended up fighting my way, working myself to the phone systems. Then I ended up working myself to an administration role. I also worked at the same time at a telemarketing company. So I ended up doing a lot of telemarketing. I actually sold some direct TVs Charlie Weiss's wife at the time at Notre Dame, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I went through quite a battle. Ended up having to go to the Cleveland Clinic for a little while and get myself together. But even after that, emotionally, physically, I just wasn't up to par to do any basketball, at least playing. And I had to kind of pay my way through school, trying to get my degree. Ended up getting my degree, and then still worked at those two places. Didn't have a car, didn't have anything. Had to walk 3 miles back and forth to jobs, 2 jobs a day to support me and my girlfriend at the time. Ended up being my fiance. I had to support both of us and try to get my school done at the same time. So.
And how's the health now?
It's good. It's good. You know, I got to take care of myself, but it's far from where those days were. Far from it.
So you're working these jobs in New Mexico.
Yeah.
How do you get back to the DMV, and how does basketball enter the picture?
So, you know, everything I know coming up is in this area. So finally, when I got myself together and I got myself where I can move and do some physical activity and stuff like that, I called Curtis Malone. And I asked him, man, is there anything, you know, going on up there? He was like, and he answered me back. He was like, I told you a couple of years ago, when you're ready, I'll put you together. I'll put you in touch with some people. You get over here and do some work. So I let that go a couple of months by, and then I called again, and I flew myself out here. I flew myself out here, and the first thing he did is have me work out for, who did I work out? Austin Freeman. So I worked out Austin Freeman. Actually, it's funny because, like I said, I'm not born in this area, but everything that I've been able to accomplish is because of people that helped me in this area. So my first person, I didn't have a gym. I had to go reach out to people, and one of the first numbers I had was Coach Gardner when he was over at Friendly. So he let me use the gym. I don't even know if he remembers this, but I was young. He let me use the gym. I worked Austin out. It went really well. Then I ended up working out Nate Britt and Chris Jenkins at the time. So I was working out Nate and Chris, and at the same time, I ended up doing Nolan Smith's ball handling and stuff for the pre-draft stuff. Word got back from a couple of teams that his ball handling looked really, really good. So then it trickled down. I started working out all type of guys. Norris Cole from Miami. But my high school clients were predominantly just Nate and Chris. A year went by. Nate Britt went from being recruited from George Mason to North Carolina. Word got out. I ended up opening my own training business, and stuff kind of just took off from there.
So how did you parlay that into becoming a coach?
Just work, man. A lot of people in this area helped me out while I was training. Like I said, when I came over here, I came over here with one pair of tennis shoes. So I used to wear those with that one pair of tennis shoes. I used to actually ride the train to Benton Road, walk the station from Benton Road all the way to Benton Road Recreation Center. Malcolm Battle actually used to help me, you know, use the gym and everything. So I used to work out 3 or 4 pros a day. Bang, knock them out, boom, 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 and walk. I used to have to actually wait till they leave, acting like I had another client, so that they didn't see me walking in the same outfit and the same shoes that I had with no car or anything. You know, I kind of had to put a facade so they knew I was as good as, you know, people were saying I was.
Yeah.
Kurt Smith, he let me use the gym over on a Southern Road or something like that. I forgot where it is exactly, but he let me use the gym there. I used to work out Rodney Magruder over there and everything, and that's where I started working on Romello Trimble. And I mean, Kurt and actually Damon and Moose really, really helped me get my training stuff off the ground. And once that happened, word just started getting out. I actually spent a year with Trevor Brown with the JV team over there, getting my head smacked a little bit. That was my first introduction to coaching. And then the job opened up here.
So you're a JV coach for 1 year at National Christian, and then all of a sudden you get thrown into the mix over here.
Right.
Talk about that process of how you become the head coach, because I know initially, if I'm not mistaken, you weren't hired as the head coach. Is that right?
Mike Sumner was, and the reason being, actually, I bombed the interview process. I'll be honest. Like I said, when I first got over here, I didn't have anything, man. So I finally got enough money to get a car, so I had an interview. Drove the car, ended up breaking down on the road, man. I had to walk for all the way about 2 miles up here. I had to walk, jog, whatever I did, 2 miles to get here. I was late. The guy, the principal at the time, Carlos Williams, was like, no, let's reschedule. My time is precious, which is understandably. So tried it again. Same car, broke down almost the exact same spot. Exact same spot. So I'm there, running over here. Was late again. Fortunately, Carlos had a good relationship with Curtis and Damon and actually Moose, Mike Sumner at the time. So they kept pushing, man. This is the guy, trust us. This is the guy, trust us. So he gave me one last interview for the coaching job and the PE position. And this time I brought sweat clothes just in case I had to run when my car broke down and everything. So I came an hour early. It broke down almost the exact same spot for the third time in a row, which is crazy. I ran up here, changed right up at the corner store up there about a half a mile away, walked up here in my suit and tie, did the interview. He was like, I actually did good in the interview, so he gave me the PE job, but he was like, I don't know if I can trust you as far as being the head coach to lead kids, da-da-da-da-da-da. So, Curtis, Malone, Damon, Hammond, and Mike, they still vouch for me. So Mike ended up taking the job, just really taking the job for me to groom me into the position. So 10 games in, some stuff happened, and they ended up giving me the job because of the way I was as the teacher and how I communicated with the people in here and all that. So Mike ended up stepping aside, and then the rest is history. That's how I really got the job.
At the time that you and Mike came over here, Clinton Christian had been here for a long time,
been
right?
here almost 60 years.
With their basketball program. Did they even have a basketball program?
They did. I don't know if it was a program or if it just was a team in the school or anything. They had basketball here, but it wasn't on a competitive level as we see day to day.
So talk about the transition of an established school,
right,
but not an established basketball program. How do you change that? How do you bring the program to the level of respectability that you've done? I mean, it's taken a few years to get from there to here, but even in your first year, you guys, were a team that was in the mix.
Yeah, ended up winning the league. My first year had a first team All-Met and John Davis.
Right. So in a 1 year span, how do you go from there to where you were?
What it really was, like I said, it came from my training and the word getting out about my training programs and stuff like that. So when I was at National, I had a relationship with John Davis, and he was going to leave National Christian anyway. So once I got the job, they contacted me, and of course, me and Coach Brown talked or whatever, and John Davis ended up coming here. Once I had John Davis, everybody kind of followed because he had a great summer that summer.
So you had to fill out an entire roster in that one summer.
I think we only had two kids from the previous year.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't. We had to really fill out the entire roster. Lonte Holston, who's at North Texas, I had to get. John Davis, Byron Hawkins came over, who's at Murray State right now. DeVell Phillips, who was integral in this whole program. He's actually won 2 championships here. So DeVell Phillips came over. Asante Shivers, who also won 2 championships here, came over. So I had to get about 6 or 7 kids that, really wanted to do something different and trust me in the process to come here. And then it took off from there.
So prior to last season, the school was the basketball program was renamed from Clinton Christian to Rock Creek. Talk about, just clear up exactly what happened, because it seemed kind of strange to outsiders.
To outsiders, exactly.
Right.
That's why I don't take too much offense to it at all. But what happened was Clinton Christian, which has been here for 60 years, decided to sell it. The church in Northwest, I believe they were located in Northwest, Rock Creek Baptist Church, ended up buying it. It took a little while for the process to go through. Once the process go through, the name change happened, and that's all that changed. Most of the administration is the same. All the teachers on all levels of the school is the same. Only thing that changed is the pastor, and if you buy a church, the pastor's going to change. So right. The leadership, as far as the pastor, Pastor Jeffrey Mitchell, who's doing an unbelievable job here, and blessed to have him. So it's only looking up, but that's what happened. A simple transaction is the school being bought.
What is your role here aside from basketball coach?
I'm the athletic director. So I'm the basketball coach and athletic director. I started as the PE teacher, but now as of last year, I'm the athletic director.
And what does that role entail? I mean, how many sports teams are at the school? Just talk about your.
We actually have track.
Okay.
We have volleyball. We have girls basketball, which popped up on the scene. I hope people recognize that. I think we were top 5 in the area. They were ranked in the nation at one point and everything. So, our girls team is pretty good. We have track, volleyball, soccer. Like I said, this school is from K3 all the way up to 12. It's not just high school. So I got to oversee all of that.
So you oversee the athletic department for the entire school, not just the upper school?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
The entire school. So it's fun though, because I'm all day, all weekend dealing with the age groups from 9th to 12th grade. So I love during the school week, man, dealing with the younger kids. They're pure.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about something you touched on a minute ago, and that's recruiting.
Right.
Recruiting is a necessary element
Absolutely
to private school basketball.
Right.
I've talked to other coaches during this series about recruiting tactics and just kind of the landscape of recruiting. But I'm curious to kind of get your take on how you recruit, what areas you recruit, what kind of players you recruit, just the whole landscape of recruiting either players from middle school or from public high schools or other private high schools. Right. I mean, it's got to be one of the biggest responsibilities as a head coach is getting the right players in the door.
Absolutely, it is. And we don't really have a recruiting process. What I do is I look for kids that want to be here, that are willing to listen and apply what we're telling, and are willing to work. So, people think we just go out there and pick this kid and pick that kid and target. I really don't target too many kids. Don't get me wrong. If LeBron James comes in at 8th grade, I'm going to target him. Like, let's be honest. But most of the kids that we get here, like a lot of people think that we're this great recruiting thing that we do because of the talent that I accumulated. Mostly like last year with Earl, who's probably a top 50 kid, Sharif, top 50 kid, Jermaine, a top 50 kid. But what they don't know is 2 of those kids, Earl and Jermaine, were not, I wouldn't say they weren't good. Well, Jermaine definitely wasn't good. But as they weren't known, they weren't, they're not who they are today as basketball players. What we do a good job of is development. Every day we're working on skill sets. Half of our practice is dedicated to their individual skill set that they have to get better. So to answer your question with recruiting, it's not too much targeting. It's really, if I see a kid that I think wants to work, wants to get better, can fit our system, whether we need a big or, we definitely have to fill out our roster. Right. I definitely want to go after those type kids.
So, but what's the process in terms of, so from the end of this past season until the start of next season, do you go to PYBL games? Do you go to AA? Do you go to AA? You go to everything?
Yeah, we try to go to everything. I'm almost in every gym. I go to PYBL games. Actually, the PYBL was gracious enough. They hosted their first set of games for the PG and DC area in here. Okay. I go to just random AAU tournaments. I go on the circuit. I go anywhere because 3 of our kids this year were out of town. Jermaine, Tydarius, and I know I'm missing one, but Jermaine's from Georgia. Tydarius was from Texas. So a lot of recruiting has to do with relationships, especially when you're not, one of the quote-unquote WCAC schools or outside. A lot of it has to do with relationships. So I've done a lot of my recruiting off of relationships.
How do you compete with the WCA schools that you mentioned? If there's a player that you're after, that they're after also, I mean, they have this history and this conference and all this. How do you, what's your pitch if you're competing against one of them?
My pitch is simple. It's almost just like playing a game against a top flight school. You got to do what you do well. You can't sit there and go up against Duke or somebody and try to be them. No, you got to do what you do well, and I have to represent who I am as a person. So I don't go out there and try to beat them at what they do. I just present to the parent, guardian, mentor, whoever we're dealing with, who I am as a person, what I know I do well, what we can do for your child. And you have to be genuine in it because, you lose relationships that way. If I'm telling a kid he can play 30 minutes a game, which is impossible, and he doesn't play those 30 minutes a game, that parent's going to be upset, and that parent's going to talk to this parent, this parent, this parent. So what I've been successful with is just being genuine about who I am, what our program can do, and how I can help your child. So it's just I feel just being genuine.
A couple minutes ago, you mentioned Earl Timberlake, 2020 guard, who was here with you guys last year. I know a player that you've been working with for a couple of years, someone who you've really kind of helped groom into the player he is today. Word got out maybe 2 months ago that Earl was leaving Rock Creek and going to DeMatha. Played a very successful summer league in the DeMatha Summer League.
Well.
I'm curious as to what your take on him leaving is. What just kind of your reaction on him departing after all the help that you did to get him where he was.
Well, you hit on it because naturally, when a player leaves like that, specifically Earl, who's pretty good right now, and I've been working with for a while, it hurts. It hurts. Let's be honest about it. It hurts. You build a relationship with the kid, and he ends up being who he is right now. Not saying he doesn't have a lot to go, but who he is right now, it hurts. But it can't be about you. So right away, it's got to be a focus. Okay, this happened, part of the business. Now, how does this affect Earl? And how does it affect Earl? If you can make 2 choices. You can choose to be a hindrance, or you could choose to be, assisting him. And it was a done deal. I'm not going to, fault anybody for the parents, because his parents have been great to me. They've been great. They've been honest. They've been everything. And they're trying to better their kid, and they feel that situation is better than what we had here. So we still talk, daily. That I love their family, I do. But now it's on me. Do I become a hindrance or do I become an assistant? So right away we got to focus on Earl and how this can help Earl. And my, job is not only to help him, maybe even basketball-wise, but to help him focus on what he has to do to be successful at DeMatha. Everybody in the process, I have to say, has been from Mike to his mother to his father to Earl, who struggled with it a little bit from the start. Everybody's been kind of phenomenal with it and doing a good job of helping the kid. And I think Mike is going to do an unbelievable job. I mean, their program speaks for itself. So I'm excited for him now. Don't get me wrong, like I didn't want him here, but I'm excited for that kid, man. The sky's the limit for him. He's a terrific kid, and he's going to get it done.
So Timberlake's gone. Talk about the rest of your roster who's coming back next year.
Right.
Are there any big additions that we should be on the lookout for? Any potential additions that are kind of up in the air right now? Talk about the makeup of Rock Creek basketball.
Of course, we got everybody coming back. Jermaine Harris, of course, is probably the highest prospect in this area so far that's off the board.
Yeah.
John Preston, who's getting recruited by all type of Ivy League schools. And then we got a couple of people that are in the mix. I don't want to say anything until the job is done, but there's a couple of kids in the mix that should be good contributors.
How about young kids? How about rising freshmen?
I actually got a really good rising freshman that I think is under the radar. His name is, we call him Kimi, but it's Yakin Staten. I think he's going to be terrific. He's already terrific defensively, which is kind of identical to Earl. They kind of were like a big brother, little brother type thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's terrific defensively, but I think his offensive skills are developing. I think he's going to shock a lot of people this year about how good he is.
You guys have been a part of the Capitol Beltway League for a few years now, been very successful in it. There's a rumor out there in the DMV basketball circles that the Capitol Beltway League could possibly be dissolving.
Right.
I'm curious what your take on that situation is, and if you can add kind of any substance to that rumor.
Yeah, I don't think it's dissolving. There are some issues that we have to work out, that I would like to keep in-house. I think that's the best way to kind of attack the situation. It's not any major issues. It's just unorganized issues. So once we figure those out, I think we have tremendous talent. We got great coaches. I mean, Trevor Brown, Lou Wilson, I think the coach of Avalon is pretty good. Capitol. I think we have terrific coaches, terrific players, and I think it can be a great league. We have to figure some things out, and I think we're in the process of doing that. So once that happens, then I think everybody in the DMV will have their answer, but it's definitely one of the top leagues, not just in the nation. I mean, in this area, but I believe in the nation.
Yeah, speaking of that, it is an incredible league, talent-wise, from top to bottom. But it just seems from outsiders like there's something missing. Like this league should be competing with the WCAC when it comes to personnel, when it comes to talent.
Right.
But I don't know if it's I don't know if it's the organization. What do you think needs to be done so that league is kind of on an even playing level with WCAC?
I think one of the main things is we got to learn how to target the media and how to get it out there. Because I know the WCAC is the WCAC. They're known in the nation. They've been here for a while. I think this is only my 4th year in it. I don't know how long it was going before, but I think we got to do a better job of promoting it. Once we get our organization stuff in order, if we promote it the right way and people are seeing the product as much as they're seeing the WCAC, they'll understand it's definitely talent-wise on par.
Right.
I mean, some years I think we have more talent, but that's up for debate.
Give me the all Clinton Christian slash Rock Creek Christian team from your coaching tenure here. A lot of big dogs been through the building here.
Absolutely.
But if you had to field your best squad, where would you start?
I think Jermaine has to be on there. He's won a championship in 9th grade, 10th grade, first team all conference. Last year, first team all Met. So he has to be there. John Davis, I guess we got to probably go through the all Mets first. So Jermaine Harris, Kevin Dorsey, John Davis, those 3 were all Mets. Asante Shivers and DeVell Phillips won 2 championships here, so they probably have to be in there. So that would kind of give me 5. But I've also had some great players. Byron Hawkins.
Yeah.
Byron Hawkins was tough. Alante Holston was one of the best defensive players I've seen in this area for a while. He was unbelievable. Mello Eggleston was pretty good. But I guess if you narrow it down to 5, I have to put 6 because Byron Hawkins was really good. Really good. I can't leave him out. But Asante and DeVell did win the 2 championships here, and Kevin, John, and Jermaine were first team all Mets. So I'll go with that.
Talk to me about some of your favorite stories, favorite experiences coaching here. Maybe trips you guys took out of town, maybe crazy buzzer beaters. I mean, if you had to think of some of the kind of the best memories of your tenure here, I know you guys go on the road and play some nationally ranked teams.
Yeah.
I mean, you played Oak Hill this past season.
Yeah.
Talk about some of your top memories.
Well, Oak Hill wouldn't be one. I'll be honest with you. Man, that game, we were. I don't know if anybody has film on that game, but we were only down 4. We had played them man all game, only down 4, and Sharif got in foul trouble. Had his 4th foul. We're down 4 with like 4 minutes to go. As soon as he got that 4th foul, we went zone and it went to 27. Literally, you could have went to the bathroom and came back and were like, what is going on? So that won't be one of them. But I would say there's a couple of ones. One, my first year here, I have tremendous respect. I talked on it earlier, but I have tremendous respect for Mike Jones over at DeMatha. So playing against him as a young, I think I was 26 at the time. Yeah, 26 at the time. I'm over at McNamara playing. The gym is packed, and we're playing them. I think they were like almost 5. I don't know if I'm accurate on that, but they had a good year. They were like top 10 in the country at the time. And Joe Hampton was hot. We ended up beating them, and that was really big for me and my confidence as a coach. We were playing in the Maryland Private School Championships. Bruce over there at Bullis, who everybody knows is a terrific coach. They had us down 17 at half. They actually had us down 13 with about 4 minutes left. And I'm to be honest, this is one of my coaching moments. I went over there in timeout. I said, hey, fellas, I looked at Alante and Asante. I said, fellas, this dude over here is kicking my butt. All I got is we're going to try to press them out, full court, man-to-man, and you guys handle it from there. And they handled it. I mean, we pressed them out full court, ended up going up 1 with a couple seconds left, and they missed the buzzer beater, but they walked the 13-point lead down in about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And that was like the semifinals of the private school championship. That was one of the best moments here. I've never experienced that as a coach.
This past season, you guys played in perhaps the biggest game of the season in the DMV. A game that was canceled twice, I believe. You guys were both undefeated.
Right.
Showdown at Wise. The game was at
Parkdale.
Right.
Parkdale.
At Parkdale. Packed gym beyond capacity. Like I said, both teams undefeated. You guys ended up losing that game.
Right.
But talk about that basketball game, the build up to that game. I mean, that was a scene over there.
Yeah. It was fun, man. I love competitive atmospheres like that. I think both teams were up for it because it was anticipated. I know Rob was definitely up for it. We wish we could have played it at Riverdale. I like I said, as a former player, young guy, and new coach, I was really thrilled to play in that game in that atmosphere. I didn't think we played particularly well. Matter of fact, I know we didn't play particularly well, and that's a tribute to what Rob did to make us play, a certain way. Sharif got in foul trouble, almost didn't play the whole first half, which hurt us. But they played a really good game, and we didn't. And I think the best team that day won. I mean, unfortunately, but the best team that day won, and I love environments like that, man. I think the DMV has the best high school environments in the country.
Coach Cole, talk to me about maybe some of your influences. I know you've been in this area and these basketball circles for a long time, but I'm curious if there's anyone in particular that you can attribute any success to, or just kind of some key influences in your journey.
Right. Well, like I said, I'm a young guy, so this area has groomed me to who I am. I think it's a tribute. Whatever success I do have is a tribute to the people in this area, as competitive as it can be. So first off, first person that comes to mind is Trevor Brown. He's like my godfather. So Trevor Brown, every step of the way since I've been 13, he's been on me. He's been helpful. He's been a butthole when he needs to. He's been what I needed, Keith Stevens over there at TakeOver. When I was a young kid, people don't even know, when I was going through the little stage where I didn't want to play basketball anymore and I quit and came back and was fat and 300 pounds or whatever, Keith called me up and tried to get me to work out with Taiwan every day. So I remember Keith before the TakeOver days trying to help me out. And now even today, if I need a call, I'll call him. Keith Williams also. Keith Williams and Hanif, when I first got into training, people were saying all this stuff trying to put, how competitive this area is. And first time I talked to Keith, he was wonderful. First time I talked to Hanif, they were wonderful, and they helped me out to this day on whatever I need if it's in their power. Also, I think I mentioned it, Malcolm Battle, who's doing an unbelievable job. I do not think he gets enough credit. I do not think he gets enough credit, but he's doing an unbelievable job at Chavez. Malcolm didn't even know me like that, but he knew I was a young kid trying to do something productive, and he helped me out. He let me use his gym at Chavez. He let me use his gym on Benner Road whenever I needed to work out pros or whoever else. Kurt Smith did the same thing. Boom. Like I said, I can go from different genres everywhere. It's not just high school coaches, it's not just AAU, but as far as high school coaches are concerned, Malcolm Battle, for sure. Rob Gardner, who I mentioned earlier, helped me the first time I needed a gym. Rob Nickens, which is unbelievable. I was just on Facebook the other day, and they said that Rob Nickens got an award for the community, protecting the community.
Yep.
Like, this is crazy. The dude's coaching flag football. He has a successful, very successful basketball program, which is hard to do in this area, and he's protecting the community. I mean, that stuff is crazy. Mike Jones has been terrific. I looked up to him since I was young. Steve Turner helps me out a lot. Lou Wilson. Actually, I got a funny story about Lou. I used to help him out with his camps in the summer a lot, and speaking to the kids and working. And this went on for about 2-3 years. Had a great relationship with Lou. So when I got the job, my very first game that I took over was against Riverdale, and the game was so big that we couldn't play it here, so we had to move it to Suitland. So me as a first coach, I'm 26, I got my suit on and everything.
This is your very first game as
This
a
is
head
my
coach?
very first head coaching basketball game, because I took over kind of midway.
Right.
Very first. So, I got a great relationship with Lou, so I go over there, I'm joking with Lou, and I go, "Hey, coach, man," he goes, he asked me, "Are we gonna do sing the national anthem or do the announcements?" I said, "Coach," and the gym is packed. The gym is packed. So I'm joking with him. I'm like, "Nah, coach, it's not that big. Let's just get it going." He was like, "Well, I don't know what you guys do at Clinton Christian at the time, but Riverdale, every game is big." I was like, "Oh, shoot, it's on." He had a funny story, and then he ended up kicking my butt. So totally kicking my butt in the coaching realm. And, coaches can go back and know what they didn't do and how they got out-coached. Totally out-coached me. It was packed gym. But, yeah, that's a funny story about Lou, man. But, Tony Massenberg has also been great. But there's a lot of people in this area, man. Damon Hammond, who definitely helped me, put me in this position, and Mike Sumner, they both put me in this position to even be successful. So, and then Curtis Malone, who got me over here. Also, a family that I am deeply, deeply appreciate everything they ever done for me, is my first high school client, Nate Britt and Chris Jenkins. Melody Britt and Big Nate have been instrumental in helping me in whatever I need, advice on and off the court, basketball wise. They're one of the great, I think, parent duos that's been in this area, at least for influencing what I've done. I owe a lot of stuff from just them trusting me with their son and them giving me advice when I needed it on other stuff. I owe a lot to them. I also want to give a shout out, because they definitely were instrumental in my life, to Maynard Curry, who's an assistant coach at National Christian, and a lot of people don't know Jeff Chappelle, but definitely appreciate everything they do for me.
The last thing I want to do, Coach Cole, is I got a question I've been asking every coach. There's a pickup basketball game today with all the coaches in the area. Who is your first pick?
My first pick?
Can't be yourself.
Can't be myself?
Can't be yourself.
Okay, all right, then I got to dig deep in the bag. I know Rob probably can play a little bit still. I don't know, but maybe Rob. Pat, that's at St. John's now, has to be. He was pretty good, so.
Still pretty young.
Yeah, still pretty young. Probably can move and get out there. Malcolm, I know, plays all the time on weekends. So if I have my first pick, though, I'm going to go with Pat. Pat's pretty young still, so I'm going to go with Pat.
Coach Cole, we appreciate you letting us in here, getting a look at the Rock Creek basketball hierarchy in the school and kind of your history and what's gotten you to where you are today. last thing I want to do is just kind of give you the floor. If there's anything you think is important to talk about, I know you don't get to talk to the whole DMV basketball community, so if there's anything you think is important, the floor is yours, my man.
Okay. Really be genuine. And anything, as competitive as this area is, and it's very competitive, I think we have the best middle school now. I think we have the best high school. I think we have some of the best coaches in the country at this youth level, from all three levels. I think we have some of the best AAU programs. I would say be genuine. Be as genuine as you can, because it'll reward you at the end. And keep it about the kids. I think as competitive as the shoe companies and stuff have been, it's kind of hard to do that when you're trying to get your kid recruited or even above that. But I would say in any relationships in this area, man, be genuine about it. That's how I've gotten here. That's how I think I've succeeded. I think I know my strengths, my weaknesses, and I'm genuine about it. I think I'm genuine with the kids, and which allows kids to trust me. So I would say the reason for my success, and I hope that everybody can try to mimic that part, is just be genuine.
All right, Coach Cole, we appreciate the time. It's been great catching up with you. And we'll see you this upcoming season.
Appreciate Capitol Hoops for coming out, interviewing me. Hope everybody enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Coach Cole.
Thank you.